Welcome to my podcast, The Laura Dowling Experience. Many of you will know me from my Instagram page, @FabulousPharmacist, where I love to shine a light on topics that people normally shy away from. Today I spoke with James McInerney. James is a makeup artist and drag artist. We spoke about his art, his work, living with Tourette's, coming out at the age of 21 in rural Ireland, and his overnight TV success. To support the Laura Dowling Experience, please check out my sponsors in the podcast notes below. Enjoy the show. James Mac, welcome to the Laura Dowling Experience. I finally got you in the hot seat.
You did, literally the day after my birthday. So thank you for the birthday gift. Thank you for the R&R and coffee and drinks and the detox.
You are so, I know, yeah, we're detoxing them today. So I actually tried to look you up. I was trying to do my little bit of research on you, and I was typing in James Mac, Mua, James Mac, drag, and actually I couldn't find your surname.
That's gas. It's well, it's halfway there. James Mac is probably for like the branding, but James McInerney. So it's true and true, like Irish country.
Okay.
Hokey pokey country, like hokey pokey country folky. It comes from County Clare. And yeah, my granddad was a Gaeilgeoir, and McInerney, my name is like Seamus in Irish. It's actually Seamus McInerney. And then if you translate, but you know what, like this will lead on to where I am in my like queer life, but when you translate it back,
You're not queer, are you?
Yeah, plot twist.
I never would have guessed.
High pitches, yeah. I'm like number 10 on the rugby team, and but it translates back into James, son of a preacher man. I kid you not.
Okay.
So maybe I'm like secretly reincarnated Dusty Springfield.
Maybe you are. So tell me about yourself. We met randomly. We were sat beside each other at an awards there a few months ago. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, you're interesting. You better come on my podcast. So tell me about yourself.
So I am from County Laois. I'm a creative director, makeup artist. I'm living in London now, but I moved 4 years ago, and I've been working as a makeup artist for about 3 or 4 just before the lockdown. And I went to school in Kilkenny College. I'm an only child to, 2 amazing parents, and all my family are from Laois, born and raised and reared in the countryside. And I say, I'm a creative artist. And right now where I am is mainly in the makeup sphere, but having just turned 29 yesterday, the last 29 years I've done loads of different things, but that's what I'm up to right now.
Okay. And how did you get into the whole makeup, all that?
I say it was just always in my bones. I loved art.
Okay.
And even with the week that it is before Christmas, I was clearing out loads of old copybooks and school books and like cards from family members. And I used to be different for drawing on everything. And I had this fascination from like 10 or 11 years old after playing video games. I turned to like, Vogue and Elle magazines, and I used to draw face charts and like loads of eyebrows, eyeliners. So I was always like portrait sketching.
Okay.
But I used to like tarnish all my school books. And I say without me knowing, like 10 years pre making a makeup decision or for as a career, it was just second nature for me.
Well, if anyone checks out his Instagram page, you will see how talented you are, because you actually paint like paintings onto people's faces. Am I right?
Yeah, it's definitely during lockdown I did a lot of myself, but a lot of my work would be, I suppose, just kind of off the beaten track creativity, and the face really is a canvas, and the medium that I use for my art is makeup products. And sometimes from a professional point of view, when you have your more generic things like brides, red carpet, Hollywood glam, the things that like make the money honey, people are afraid to see the other extensive side of like that uncontrollable like creative abilities, because they feel like I don't want to be painted blue, I don't want to be Smurf, I don't want to be like, it's amazing, but they fear that's the only thing I can do. So since lockdown I did a lot of that, but in the last year of my career trying to freelance, and for me personally it was harder to like soften my hand and get better at like glam and what the larger consumers in the world want out there. I can do that. So do you do a lot of that? Is that what do you like to do it as well? Or I'm learning to love to do it, because my kind of like path along this makeup path has changed even in the last 12 months. Okay. It's been surreal. So I guess I've always been a creative kid. I loved art. Always into anything visual. I don't think I did one exam when I went to university, I did study a Bachelor of Science in Media. I chose every module as continual assessment just so I didn't have to read and write.
Okay.
I'm just crafty with my hands and like have that visual memory.
I always find it, and I've said it before on podcasts, so interesting how people can actually see something in their head and put it down on paper, or like a face, or like artistic people. Just because I'm so not artistic, as in I couldn't draw a matchstick man practically, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
But I do really appreciate it, and I appreciate what goes into it. So obviously, as a kid, you were artistic, and what was it like growing up in the countryside as an artistic gay boy?
Everyone else probably knew before me. I come from another kind of primate point. I come from a big horse background. So both my parents are from a village called Mountrath on kind of the Limerick Road in Laois, and they were at both ends of the village. And on one side, my dad's father was a vet, and they were huge racing advocates. Like, I think my dad's family relatives, like close family friends, one of them was Pat Taff, who rode Arkle, who was one of the biggest gold champion winning horse riders in the 60s. That I'm so bad because my dad is reincarnated of my granddad, and I don't know what happened to me, but I'm aware of this. And my mum also came from a huge horse background where she was the youngest of 8 siblings, and my mum's parents, my maternal grandparents, they set up the Irish Pony Racing Association of Ireland. So they were forever horseback. Yeah. And that then trickled down to me. So I was born on a saddle, was always immersed in animals. We never had a farm, but we had a yard with 2 or 3 horses. And I used to compete, show jump, did triathlons. I was always like athletic. Horrible at group sports. I went to a co-ed boarding school in Kilkenny from 12 till 18. And then
a co-ed boarding school. Yes. Okay, I didn't even know they existed.
Kilkenny College. It was the largest co-ed boarding school in the Republic.
Okay.
And it was Church of Ireland. And I lived across the bridge from like the old parochial church, like Protestant primary school in my village.
Okay.
And I was a really shy kid. Like I can't stop talking now, but I didn't open my mouth till I was about 14 or 15.
Okay.
And just growing up, I was quite shy, quite reserved. I felt I never really followed my true, like, you know, a bit like kind of desires initially. Because I didn't have any experience. It wasn't until I left school and went to college that I got a camera, and then I realized I love photography. But yeah, sports and horses in particular were a huge influence. And then my dad's sister, my godmother, was very creative. She lived in Galway for 20, 30 years. Yeah. And she gave me that influence to art.
Okay.
So, you know, it's all like, it doesn't make sense when I say what I do now. But it's funny how indirectly it fits what I suppose where I am now. I feel like I am meant to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? Tell us.
I'm a freelance makeup artist / creative drag queen. I moved to London 4 years ago, and I participated in a show called GlOWUP.
Oh my goodness. Tell me what that is. Oh my God,
what is that? You're glowing, girl. Tap your face for blush. But it's a show in search for Britain's next makeup star. And I watched the first series, and I was on the second series in 2019, but it aired in the middle of lockdown. So backtracking a little bit, after school, I was always into sports. And when I was 16, a side twist, and I'm forgetting it, but it's coming up as I talk about it, because I really forget sometimes. I was really fortunate as an only child, and I guess my parents were always just into sports, giving me the best opportunities, and almost a sense of pressure when there's only one kid. What can you avail of when there's no other children to like try out different things on? I really took to skiing, and that was a fortunate opportunity for me as a child. So when I was 16 in Kilkenny College, transition year was compulsory, and my parents I was lucky enough the school let me opt out to leave for the year. And I went to Switzerland, and I actually became a trained ski instructor. So
sorry, how did you figure out that you were good at skiing?
I was brought on family trips. Mum and Dad used to go in the 80s. Like, they had pals and mates that, I don't know if it goes hand in hand if you horse ride, or, well, if it's just like their balance freaks. They love to be able to balance themselves on horseback or on snow. And they took me along from the age of 10.
Okay.
And I was just, I took to it really well. So I got bandy legs. I've got like, I can hop and there's a hip flex and I can just jump. I mean, I jump around anyways because another side note, I have a form of Tourette syndrome and I've had it all my life. It's never really stopped me from following my desires, but it's physically been there prominently from like 5 or 6 from what I can remember. But sometimes I think that's why I was always athletic and I was always good at like solo sports, terrible at the games, like team games.
Yeah.
But I skied and then I did the training degree when I was 16 and I went back and finished 5th year and 6th year. And then my parents separated for a while and I didn't fail my leaving cert, but I didn't get the points or the grades for doing media in DCU. So I took a gap year. And when I took a gap year, I went back to the ski, like trying to use my instructor cert, but it was all like last minute. There was no spaces in any resort in Europe. So I filtered my research and I actually moved to the North Pole. I lived in Lapland for 6 months when I was 18. So those, I'll touch on that, but building back up to, I finally got into college, did media. And then about 4 years ago when I graduated, I still wasn't sure what the heck I wanted to do. And then I went back to my younger self, remembering, hey, I really loved art, but there was something else about the beauty. And, I think the marriage referendum had happened. It was 2016. I was 24. I was in Dublin. I had finally found like the queer community and the drag community in Dublin. And that's when I started to do like drag for the first time and discover things like RuPaul's Drag Race, all those like, fundamentals of today's queer culture. And that's when the penny dropped. I was like, oh my God, I look gorgeous. Or I can do this. I can do this.
I am beautiful.
And I can make others beautiful. And that is where that was being the Kickstarter of the last 4 years that I definitely think will be like a huge certain foundation and bronzer for the next things that like for what I'll probably do as my career.
But I've seen pictures, you've taken these mad pictures of yourself on your Instagram where you are in full drag and you're literally standing beside a horse or something. Or you're like, there's people around you and they're like dressed like farmers and you're literally like, the most glam you could be. It's cool.
There was a shot and kind of when I look back on my life, like the last 4 years, I moved back from London having filmed the show. It aired in the summer 2020. I lived back in Laois for 14 months. Saw nobody really. None of us did we? And that's when I had the courage and bravery to realize, hey, I grew up with this passion for horse riding. It's funny what like even early years, like the early 2000s society teaches, like someone still young like myself, I had these preconceived negative connotations of what it meant to be gay. And I thought I had to give up all these things I did like sports because I thought, to be gay, you have to be super camp. You have to like be into weird things. You have to be like an outcast and not like the normal things that I can still love them or not, and embrace this other side to me.
Yeah.
And marry the two of them together.
Okay.
Which I finally penny dropped for me to do it in lockdown. And yes, there's this photo that I got taken with a friend of mine from Dublin who's an amazing, very like just has a unique talent for photographing drag queens or just like an aesthetic that looks like a fantasy, but it's a real image. And he came down in like the break. There was one break between lockdown 1 and 2. And we shot.
You're pretending, he came down. He was illegal. He illegally came down. It wasn't a break at all.
I was saying 5 kilometers, 55, 69, however far I have to go. And the Wanderley wagon brought him down to Laois. And I got probably my favorite photograph to date on horseback in full drag. Like Kate Bush coming out like screaming banshee.
It is unbelievable. And you are beautiful. It is like you're a beautiful queen.
Well, the pony was serving as well.
And was drag something that you discovered when you moved to Dublin? As in, had you ever considered drag? Had you ever looked at people and gone, oh, I wouldn't mind trying that? Or was it literally just when you went to the George, you saw them and...
It was definitely in drifts of drabs. And I think I'm the worst for like condensing my facts and the storyline because I was never too sure of myself, but I knew. And when I kind of even was more honest with myself, looking back, especially during lockdown, yes, I looked at like women's clothing. I was obsessed with high heels. All I wanted to buy was those Heat magazines. Jessica Simpson was looking amazing for that new adaptation of Duke of Hazzard's big bouncy blonde blow dry hair. Britney Spears' bodysuit and Toxic, the music video. They were like the epiphany moments of the first time I realized I had a gay conscience.
Okay.
But I was not like, I was such a good actor in like my own mind to be like, no, that's not real. And like I pressed that till I was like 23. Came out at 21, but I hid any sense of a queer agenda or being like super camp, because it was hard enough to come out. I think you've heard this before, and I think I've heard this on other episodes of your podcast. Other people have said when you come out a million, like so many other times. There's chapters of coming out. But yeah, growing up, when I look back, I definitely I would cross-dress. My mum and dad would go to dinner. I would go rummaging through her wardrobe, pick out skirts. When my feet were the same size as hers, used to wear the heels, obsessed with heels. Couldn't get the higher to the drag queens in heaven, the better.
Yeah.
That's still the matter of fact. So, the point being, I think it's always been there.
Okay.
You don't make someone this way. It's in your heart and your soul. It's in your blood and your genetics. And here I was suppressing it for like 15 years before. Even the last 2 years, I've lived the most authentic self that I've ever embraced. Because I still chipped away at whatever I concealed. And, boarding school put a huge stopper on it. For like 5 or 6 years, which nearly took another 5 or 6 years, if not double the amount of time, to like eradicate what was all, built up and strategically learned to be like, this is not right or this isn't safe. And I'm talking about only 2009.
Yeah, because you're only 29, and that's the thing. When you go to boarding school and you're surrounded by, I suppose, because I was actually interested in the fact that it was a co-ed boarding school, so I presumed you had female friends that you probably gravitated towards in that space. Yeah. But the male friends you would have had probably, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, would they have been quite macho? Would it have been like gays been talked about in a derogatory way?
Totally. Like, it's 10 years since I did my graduation, or when I did my Leaving Cert now, and I actually was brought back to my school. I was brought back to do a talk in County Laois for a whole collection of community colleges, but then my own school in Kilkenny, through Zoom last year, I did a talk where I would just hope that any of these issues for, let's say, any student in like junior cert now, any kid that's 14, 15 or pre-Leaving Cert, that these are not questions that they would have to worry about. And like, it's only a decade ago, but I know there was a couple other people that have came out since then, and not that it has to be done. You are who you are. And I just felt like the full range of authenticity isn't seen, or wasn't in my time in school. And I just, you have to be an advocate and an ambassador and use your experience to like, just try to encourage. You can't bring a horse of water, make them drink it. Like, hopefully kids will like see a bigger picture now and just be more free to do whatever the hell they think and want. And I definitely do think that's the case. Yeah. But when I did go back to school recently to talk about it, you just hope that they don't have the same experience. It's easier said than done still, because I had all the support in the world and people, no one had cared that I did come out. It was all in my own head, the like pressure. Yeah. So you just hope that is lessened for like today's 13 or whatever age, under 18-year-olds, I say, or even younger adults now. And that was the biggest, like, looking back at what I do now and where were the signs? I knew I was doing it all, but it was just such like top secrecy. Always like impossible, 100%.
Did your parents ever walk in and you dressed up as a youngster?
I was so stealthy. Okay. I would like know when they'd come home. Okay. I would like put everything back. If anything, it was like I became that, like, there's such that Irish connotation, sweep under the rug. Yeah. And I became so good at it. And I even like fooled myself. Even to the point now that I'm still like can shy, and some people be like, you ain't saying the fucking truth, bitch. Like passive aggressiveness. Like I'm still quite shy to a degree. Like if I just have an opinion, just say it. Like I've had to learn that through life experience, be it friends, lovers, family, whatever. And just not be afraid to be yourself. Because I would still, in the most, which sounds so ironic now, I'd safeguarded. Like it's so built into my kind of like own experience in growing up. Yeah. My parents had no idea. Okay. And the best respect. They were so loving and supportive. They saw me just take to the sports. They saw me probably just doing so much as a kid and a child. And I never said I did not like it, which is fair to say. But there was just other thoughts ticking in my head, but I didn't even know why or what that meant. So the George wasn't like the eureka. There was loads of like pennies dropping along the way But then I think I just had a better sense of confidence when I saw at least someone else doing it.
And can I ask you then, just to explain, what is the difference between a drag queen or a man that likes to dress as a woman, but you definitely identify as a man, and someone who's actually transgender?
I think drag, you know, the initial understanding of drag is a man dressed as a woman, and drag is like a mockery of society, because society can change so many different like subcultures of social norms, social circles, you know, underground cultures. Like people, there's like that kind of white supremacy, if I get into it, and basically nothing else matters, or it's been that way for centuries. Drag is a mockery of that, because it's like, what the fuck does it all mean? But it's not just a man dressed as a woman. Drag is, to its best degree, an art form. So I see myself as a drag artist. Like, am I a drag queen? I don't care to have that label. If some people find it easier, because that's like the most oldest traditional term in the book, go for it. But like, I don't shave my mustache. I have the gender bending. It's not irrelevant. I don't try to be a doll or like very feminine. I mean, I will come across with like glamorous makeup, but then I got this big hairy molly over my lips, and I'm like, you know, who wants to swing from the right? Who wants to swing from the left? And or hop on is a free, you know, JJ Cavanagh's 10 quid, mine's a fiver. It's like, I'll get you there. That's drag. It's an art form. You could do drag. Yes. You can do drag, and like you can be a drag artist. And, you know, women can dress up to be that more, I suppose, to put a label on it, a hyper feminine type of drag. But then like you can be a drag king, which is like the more obvious. If you are identifying as a female, you want to do drag, that's like you turn into the opposite quote unquote gender to be drag king. And then that's where I suppose drag queen, it became more prominent. How ironic, men, I know, the power to turn into women, and they nearly are more confident than how women felt in their own skin initially. But I feel like that's changed, and it's changed so rapidly with how much, again, things have changed in general in 10 years. And then, yeah, that's, I suppose, this is my own take on what I feel I've learned. Probably being very heavily immersed in the queer scene, so I hope it makes sense. Yeah. But transgender, is that what you asked me about transgender? Yeah, so I was just asking you, the difference between a drag artist is not someone that wants to be female or identifies as themselves as female. It's more that they like to show off that side of them, that artistic side of them. Well, I feel like I'm just trying to be very diplomatic and make it broad. People are very specific about their drag being a transformative thing. Like, you know, some guys are like, I am a drag queen. I am the female fantasy. Sure, mine is more drag queen as well, but I have no rules. I just see myself as a drag artist. Like when I do those crazy makeup looks myself, I'm like, what flips the script and then it becomes drag? When a heel's on, when I pop a wig on, do you know, if I have my hair like short like my boy, and then but I have like, you know, very feminine face, but maybe it's painted blue, but I'm like, what makes it drag? So it's very fluid then, yeah, very fluid is the answer. We got there. That's it. We did it. Transgender, you know, I can only speak as an ally because that's not my identity, but from my own understanding, which is constantly evolving, you know, that's when someone wants to identify either as a different gender or even as a different sex if they change their actual sexual identity from what they originally signed at birth. So I suppose, to put into context, as a makeup artist, I'm very fortunate to work with some amazing people, and a lot of my clientele in London right now come from queer representation. And there was an amazing show released earlier this year called Heartstopper. It was aimed at like families and definitely younger adult or under 18 audience. And it's about two boys that fall for each other in school. And it's obviously like, you know, demonstrating a healthy, normal gay dynamic for kids, but while they're in secondary level. And there's also like a transgender storyline in it. And the character that plays that role, her name is Yasmin Finney. And she's become one of my clients of recent, doing her makeup for events. And this show took off. So the cast and the actors have blown up overnight. They're all like under 20 years old. It's phenomenal. So just as a, you know, I'm doing a plug here. Watch Heartstopper on Netflix. And I have no affiliation with the show, but just as a background. And Yasmin is a young trans female actress. So she was assigned male at birth, but she identifies now as, you know, trans female. And she's stunning. You couldn't notice the difference. And again, it's not about being unclockable, as the term sometimes coined. It's whoever you want to be. Like, to make it more easy, I identify personally as male, like he, him. It doesn't affect me too much to that degree.
Okay.
But again, I'm giving my twists on where I come from. I can't speak on someone that actually lives, that life. But I know a lot of my friends and circle and community, I would be an ally to a lot of different chapters within, just the LGBTQIA plus community and the queer agenda.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, it's funny how this is definitely something I feel obviously passionate about. And this is probably things I was looking at. Like if I went to a newsagent, I wouldn't be looking at the soccer or the rugby or the Irish or the Racing Post. I was looking at the Heat or the more flamboyant magazines. Yeah. Even the GQ or the men's Hot 100 at the top of the back shelf that I couldn't reach. God damn it, ma'am. But yeah, they all fed into, I suppose, what has influenced me to do what I do now as kind of, I suppose, a queer focused creative makeup artist. And having all of these other career experiences, maybe they've shaped how I am navigating my journey through my makeup career now. Like, I love to do this. I love to think that I'm very engaging. And, the life experience that I had in my early 20s, it taught me a lot about patience because a lot of when I did GlOWUP, I don't think it was even about being the Britain's next makeup star. It was about the best, next, maybe mental capable person, how you perceived it. Yeah. Because I was ready to leave that competition, 5 times. I was in hot water a lot. And I just persevered and pushed through. Yeah. And I had to trust myself in those 3 hours when I'm like, am I swimming, sinking? Or you just got, and then also if my gut knows to do the crazy, unconventional makeup that the show wanted, to not hold back. Because it's not half of life to not be afraid of holding back and follow,
And did GlOWUP give you a real career boost? Did it get your name out there? And
it definitely did, because we were quite lucky with our series. It came out 9 months after we filmed it. We were pushed back 3 months at the start of 2020, which I thought initially I've lost my chance. But then in lockdown, everyone was at home and it went to Netflix worldwide a month after it aired originally on BBC Three. I had to get a VPN to watch it in Ireland. Sorry, guys. We're getting cancelled. This is the last podcast. You'll never see us again. But no, when it went to Netflix, my following blew up overnight. I got 250,000 in a week. My mom was loving it. She was like, 150, 200K.
Oh, yeah.
And no, numbers don't matter, but it did for my career point of view. I'm going to say yes. It gave me such experience that I wouldn't have gotten without the show. What has been the last year and a half for me, though, I don't think you can ever get a leg up on that or guidance. Since GlOWUP and since the show, it was all online because of lockdown. I was more or less like a content creator, full-time influencer, to put it that way. And then I wanted to return to London because I never wanted to leave. It was just because of COVID. For our safety, I said, I'm not going to sit in a flat in London. I had the privilege of having family in the countryside in Ireland, and I got to come home, and that was the best thing for me. And, when you have no FOMO, I actually discovered JOMO, the joy of missing out. Yeah. And, but I've maintained, I suppose, the same reason I did GlOWUP initially, to elevate my skills as a working makeup artist. I've now gone back out as a working makeup artist in the industry. But the hustle of that, I think the last year and a half has been more hard work than ever before in my life. And even after the show wasn't hard work. That wasn't difficult. If anything, when I went to college eventually, I did a Bachelor's of Science in Media in DCU. I was up in Ballymunhun, giving it the Northern Dove socks. And that came into it was beneficial when I went to film the show because I had no fear of the camera, the sets, the long days. Oh my God, 16 hours on set sometimes, and the 8 weeks and the turnaround. I felt it was nearly your perseverance that made you survive in the show, irrelevant of what skill. We all had skill and talent. Every person that's gone on to do, there's 4 seasons of the franchise now in the UK. We're all amazingly skilled. Yeah. It's just here. Obviously, when you deliver, but how you are up here will bring the best of you out. And I just think I was even in a time and a place in my life at 26 that I even look at myself when the show came out and I'm like, wow, who is that guy? He's late. Okay. It just worked out at the right time. So the last year I've gone back into the working world, but it's no one can teach you that. So it's helped my career, but it's what happens next? I'll be really honest, I'm figuring it out. Okay. Because I've made that switch back into being a working artist. Okay. And working on anyone's face. Being
Yeah.
able to like take any person in my chair and what the client wants, the client gets. That's like my biggest, I suppose, objective for me right now.
Okay. You mentioned your Tourette's and you're twitching in front of me there.
Yes, oh my God. I'm going to twitch more because
we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
So can we talk about how that has affected you? Because you say that you've had it for as long as you remember. Do your parents remember it starting, or?
They do. They just remember it being like biting my nails, like blinking a lot, rolling the tongue. There's a form of Tourette's, the one that's kind of stereotypically known, the verbal, corporalia is called.
Okay.
And don't think I have that, but like I'm very eclectic and jumpy with my words, and I'm loud and I crack jokes, and I probably have a loud ha-ha, so maybe it comes out verbally like that.
Okay.
But yeah, my parents saw a lot of like just twitches and leg. I'd like jump. My dad used to call me antelope growing up. I just literally would skip and hop on the spot. And it looks mad, but you have to embrace yourself. So it's always been there. And I think in boarding school, I was just I was just so cautious, and I'm a sensitive soul. I was very cautious of upsetting other people all the time. And in the big study halls, like our school had like 800 students. There'd be like 300 of them in one sports hall for the summer exams or the Christmas tests. And like you could hear my grunting, it would echo across the hall. And then leaving cert, I said to Mom, I'm actually more stressed about upsetting other kids. We're all under a stressful environment. It's now affecting my study and my grades and my results, because I would take longer reading the paper because sure, I'm not even looking and seeing the bloody words. So I got certified having Tourette syndrome. And then I was able to get a private room and extracurricular time for each exam. So I got help by the state examination commissions, but it was my mum had to work really hard to like get it. And when I look back, I didn't really understand or even remember. I don't remember much aside from what I was interested hobby-wise, like the actual push and the hustle to make these things happen. Like my mom worked like a Trojan. I just have to give her credit for getting that exemption, because I don't even realize, or I only realize now with all the other trials and tribulations in life, how much that benefited me.
Yeah.
And it definitely affected me.
Yeah.
And it's been there like my whole life. And, you know, oh my God, my eyes in focus.
You are. No, you're gorgeous. We're just slipping down the chair, but I need to make sure that we still get your full beauty.
I'm getting relaxed, girl. That's what I'm getting comfortable.
Great. It's good to get you
talking about myself. Wow.
So just ignore me when I'm fiddling with the cameras.
So it's been there all my life, and I think that, you know, people have like, on school there was the initial bullying, like let's call you Twitcher, or let's say ticks and tacks. I never let it stop me then, because I was so internally aware about being gay. That was actually a bigger issue. Such a bigger issue for me personally. So the ticks and the twitches, they were there all the time. And when I got exempt from like normal school or exam timetables, I got my own length. It did help me. I got better results. And then I was on a system in university called DARE. It was like Disability Accessible Resource for Education. I wish I availed of like the council services and the helps. I was in college in freshman doing all the societies. I didn't do any of my college work, and I was buzzing, okay? And then I came out and I was going to all the nightclubs and all the like, there was one called See You Next Tuesday every Tuesday, and the stamp was across my forehead at 11 a.m. on Wednesday in the lecture hall. And I was just living life. Yeah. So it was like, there was always services from me from the age of 18, but it didn't affect me that much. And like, I didn't even worry about it when I did the show. Obviously, producers were like foaming at the mouth, because when I brought it up, they're like, this is different.
Okay.
But you're a makeup artist. And I think what has always been a safe keeps, or a fundamental, like, why I know this is the passion for me or the right track in life, the power of makeup has definitely had a stronger hold on me than Tourette's taken over my body. So when I do makeup and I'm doing those thin lines, I'm like transcended.
So you don't move and twitch when you are doing that, or?
I kind of get out of my system before I take a deep breath to be like, okay, and go.
Okay.
And the more I'm involved in practicing makeup on a nearly daily basis, when we did GlOWUP, I was doing it like, that was an 8-week like intensive cooking, environment. I nearly forgot about it. It did come up in stressful moments, but I was like, precious retires. And I just felt at peace, and like there was nothing else but to focus on. For me, it's like if I have more than 2 or 3 things, this is probably a derivative of ADHD without question. I get so scatterbugged, you know, lose my focus. So when it's one thing, it just transcends nearly into like a calm space. And I guess the producers, when I applied for the show, they love that.
Yeah.
There's no one else with Tourette's that I've seen do the creative form. Ironically, in the last year, and I'm young, but I'm not maybe 19, I just find it's taking a toll on my body because the freelance industry of makeup that I've gone back into since returning to London after post-pandemic, it's been like so taxing and I'm knackered. I'm like tired in the sense that I've been working hard. I'm nearly unaware of what I have achieved and some amazing opportunities and events and how we even got to meet each other at the awards. It's been a lot in 1 year. And maybe this is where I need to have a break, but my body gave up before my mind did. And the Tourette's has like gotten quite bad. I don't want to say bad, just a lot more intense.
Okay. And so when you are moving like that, obviously that's your body is using energy to do that. So do you become physically fatigued?
Yeah. Recently I've kind of come out to my parents or just admitted that in the last few months in London, irrelevant to what time I might come home, it acts up more because it's like an alert system to your body that you are normalizing running off adrenaline, which is really dangerous. Like you're exhausted. You're not even like just fatigued from a normal working day. And then it picks up and I've lost my footing and I've fallen and hit my head recently and just, you know, not looked after myself. And that is like, there's a sense of pride of not admitting to it. And also it's not like I'm saying it as if this is my new storyline to feed off. It's fact. And I nearly was not admitting to myself this is happening because I was like, oh, get over yourself. But no, it has become more, it does, I've just known or seen over the last while when I'm tired and then when I'm stressed or when I'm burnt out, well, it's a stress indicator. For me, it really is. I wonder how habitual it is, like, or if it's really part of my neurological system, to be honest. Because my mom has told me I was born, it's 3 days before Christmas. I was meant to be a Christmas baby, but I was born 21st. I was delivered early and my mom never experienced labor. It was like a forced delivery. And I often think that caused trauma on the birth process. Well, mom never experienced a natural birth and that was probably traumatic for her. And I often think was that
in terms of she had a cesarean or
she had I was forceps out. They got a clamp to take me out and they induced mom from like the hip down, but there was no cesarean. It was like she just remembers there was blood on the wall. Okay. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't feel that. So
if they induced her, you're probably in distress or something like that, and they gave her an epidural. Then I think.
I mean,
okay.
It's funny. You definitely would know, Laura. Like that. That must have been the facts.
Okay.
But and like, was I there? Yes. It's my first breath of life. But it's like this is the consequences of it.
Okay.
And it's weird. I've only discussed and learned about this recently with my mom because I just got on with life before the show, and when I had my moment on GlOWUP, I shared my story. And it's weird how in the last 2 years, I've nearly found it more, there's pressure because the reach out was amazing. Like it was overwhelming because people with all forms of Tourette's and tics and they see someone like me in the show and they think some people really can't function or do some things in life that I've pushed myself to achieve my own sense of like ambition and achievement. And I think it's amazing. Now I feel my conversation has been so much more driven around I'm someone that lives with Tourette's and I've had to look way more back into where did it actually come from. And I've heard and actually learned these stories for the first time. And emotionally and mentally, I've tried to not almost feed into the storyline to feel like, why is this part of my existence? Because now recently I've learned to be dead honest, try not to resent it because I've pushed myself a lot with the industry that I'm in and the path I've taken within the last year. And it's exhausted me a lot more that I've seen the Tourette's being a lot more kind of impeding on me or a lot more impactful in like a more tiring way. And I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
You know, I often think, God, what would it be like if I didn't have this?
Yeah.
Like to sit still and be able to breathe as well. I feel like I haven't taken a proper deep breath in 2 years because it affects my breathing. I grunt, I cut it off.
Yeah,
I say it, I pick it up.
I can hear that.
And that's, that's all kind of been new knowledge or just ways of thinking for me in the last 2 years.
Okay.
Because of the show.
Yeah.
It's like I've brought it up and now it's like not a branding thing, but I'm even way more aware of it. I was happy-go-lucky about it. I still try to be, but it's definitely taken its toll. And that experience at birth, I often wonder, like how just deep is it? Really, really deeply voluntary. It's not like it's involuntary and I can't not control it. I just try not to put that pressure on me because I'm like, just let live and let go and let God or whatever. You know, you can't put yourself under that too much pressure.
And did you have to, like, did you go and see a doctor or a psychiatrist for it? Or like, was there anything, like, was it ever suggested that there's something that you could do to help in terms of cognitive behavioral therapy or medication or?
Yeah, I did cognitive behavioral therapy when I was 17. Like in school, they were when my mum and dad were concerned and so was I. And I went to see a consultant in Tala Hospital and I had to write a diary for 6 months and I did it, but I found it so tiring because at the end of it, I felt and we agreed there was no pattern. But we had to do that to realize it. It changed with stress. How do I not become stressed? How did my parents did everything to make life easy and comfortable for me, but then why am I such a stressed kid and anxious about a million things? Probably half of them not knowing myself, like coming out maybe, but then equally I'm still stressed and I'm tired about something else that always pop up. Mindfulness, meditation, swimming, running, respiratory things, they're hugely fundamental for me, and yoga. And I finally tapped into that in lockdown. And, you know, I try to come back to it. This year is a prime example. I just think I did way too much. And I filled a lot of other people's cups and not give myself more time that I just need. Like we all need it. This isn't just like unique to me. This is how we all try to live our lives, right?
Yeah.
And I just, really pushed myself too hard this year that I couldn't even, when I tried to rest and do these things I know benefit, just calming my mind or calming the tremors and twitches.
And do the tremors and twitches, have they changed over time or have you always done the same thing?
They change over time. It's like seasons, girl. Dior's in one day, Chanel's out the next. Inglot was everywhere, then it was Mac. Now I don't know what. Now it's like what on like
is
you know
it not
TikTok.
Charlotte Tilbury now?
Oh, it is Sharps, girl. I know. I will go down a tunnel, a rabbit hole of makeup. Haven't even mentioned the brand yet. Yeah, it changes. The one now, the camera's here. I'm going to lose the volume, but I go to the right.
Yeah,
my neck is like killing it. It's doing numbers here on the stage. This has been a new one in the last like year and a half, and it's the most exhausting one.
Is your neck not sore doing that? You look like you could give yourself whiplash.
Well, I fall over because I don't see in front of me. And it's like, I'm aware of it. So I say, James, why am I doing this? But I don't know how deeply rooted it is to just like, let it be, not get too caught up in it, but just try to give yourself more time, rest, drink water, sleep. Don't feel like you just whatever to calm it down. It's hella sore. Like I've gone for acupuncture therapy and cupping. Suction therapy recently on my back, and the liver, which is like connected to your emotions, I think the lower cup on the right side. I got this done in London during the summer. The doctor, he couldn't even put it on my back, so I was like, oh, no. It was so tickly because of all the tension, but it's a nerve line that connects right up to the neck, so it's like punctured completely down here and pointing down to my lower right side of my spine. Because of the right side of my neck, it like has shot this wire. Yeah. So it was like so tickly. I felt like there was like, 10 clowns trying to get a laugh out of me. I was like, oh my God, get off. But then when finally the muscles relaxed, it was like so tense that all the tension is like tickly at first. And then it became sore. And then he's able to get the cup down. And I was like, effing and blinding. If I thought I didn't have a form of copralia, then I was screaming the house down. But then came this flood of tears. I cried for like the full hour because I got so emotional about it because I am quite sensitive. It felt like I was getting a help and like a treatment or something that I hadn't had help for it before. And it almost felt like a eureka moment. Okay. So it actually, even saying that is like a reminder for me that this is something I need to do. Yeah. Again, because I only had that session once. I was invited to go and do it. Yeah. And one of my plans going ahead is to even document probably because of the show and the footfall of people that, you know, would feel the same or suffer from forms of Tourette's that's heard and seen my story. I want to be a spokesperson or like a representation to try and see what could just help it. I don't think it's about finding a cure, because all that self-love and embracing, but that treatment was amazing. So like that helps it. Mindfulness, acupuncture. Yeah, my muscles. I went to a woman in Kildare only 2 weeks ago when I came back for the Christmas period. And she was testing me, you know, she checks the lymphatic system, raises the arm, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're shot." And I said, "Oh, I gave you, girl, I'm giving you a run for your money." I was like, "You're going to work today. This is not an easy patient." And she was just like, my body wasn't connected at all. And I found the needles really hard because I'm also trying to sit still.
Yeah.
And like they're connected to your valves, your nerves, your vessels.
Yeah.
And my quads twitch a lot. So I really had to breathe. I was like, put on that pipe music. I was like, put on that relaxation music. I was like, get those waves on, Elizabeth, please. And yeah, it's just, I'm trying loads of different things while also not trying to be too hard on myself. But I think fundamentally it's about giving myself more time and rest.
Would you strike me as someone who's got a very busy mind?
I think that's so obvious after like me, I'm not come up for air.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, and then was there ever were you ever diagnosed with anything that went with Tourette's? Any kind of anxiety? Like I know you've spoken that you've dealt with anxiety, but was anxiety ever diagnosed or depression in you?
No,
by a doctor,
but you know, I would love to go back to, not that I have to get it defined, but the more it's even, have you felt that even in society it's become such a more normalized, people are going to get diagnosed for so many more things. There's so much more ADHD diagnosis. People are diagnosed and identifying with having anxiety or, you know, owning any respectable forms of like depression or mental health. It's such a big conversation nowadays. Here we are. I definitely think there's some strands of it. Like with these twitches, and I fundamentally think it's a part of OCD. I think it connects into, you know, my well-being, my state of mind, anxiety. Sure, don't we all? But when I was going for this consultation, and maybe by my own parents' concerns for what I did tell them how I was feeling, because I was nervous about even just doing this, it was stressful to feel different. I think that's the nail in the head. I was always felt tired by feeling different as well. Because I did stand out like a sore thumb. I wasn't doing the school sports. I had peacock blue straightened hair. I was gay before everyone else knew and I didn't. And it was just like I wasn't fitting in. Yeah. And that's no victim to life. It was just like, you know, beat to my own drum, and I've embraced that now. But I just felt like, to mum and dad, can we just focus on this Tourette's certification thing? Don't even want to go there if I'm ADHD or suffer with anxiety. Like, I'm sure I do, but I've got no, you know, consultation or definitive like I do. I've said to my mom only recently, because again, it's circulating conversations around us. I would be interested in seeing, do I have a form of ADHD? Because the neurodiversity is definitely there.
Yeah. And did the doctors, like, I mean, is there any, can people with Tourette's help to manage it? Is there any form of medication that you were ever offered to help with it or that works? Or?
There was, but maybe from my mum's background, and she's a nutritionist, and just, we, you know, holistic. Thank you. Yeah. Hallelujah. Holistic medication would probably be more of the choice. Like, we've had family and friends that have been, you know, on medication to manage for their mental health and depression. And, you know, we've lost family members to, you know, depression as well. And I think that always has been a heavy influence for not personally going there. And that's, you know, just that's a fact.
Yeah.
And that even was something I experienced in my life when I was 19. And I just, maybe that has influenced me to not go down the route. Because I just feel, I find that the biggest medication is your state of mind. And it might be a harder like mountain to climb, but in the longer terms, it's like when people want to have a drag of a cigarette, like how much of an instant release is that? But the long-term benefits of practicing your breathing and meditation, that'll actually really calm you down.
Yeah.
A fag.
And
quote,
then
unquote,
do you
really
need, I'm going to take some of this Mikado.
Go for it.
I love the marshmallow and the Mikado biscuits.
You know what? That's probably what my busy mind would wear, or that's how you are eating my mind.
Oh, it's so tasty.
Thank you.
You know it was Christmas, the Mikados are out. So in terms of then, like, would you twitch at nighttime in bed when you're asleep, or is it? Do you know this? Have you ever tried?
It's so funny.
Videoed yourself?
I was sleeping with my girlfriend last night, like after the George, and you know, even in the morning, he was like, "Do you twitch in your sleep?"
Oh God!
And I was like, "Well, do I? Because I heard you snoring." Jesus, I was awake at 6 a.m. and went for a walk. I have no idea. I've actually never thought about, do I survey it? Like, you know, get a camera, go Big Brother on it. When I wake up in the morning, sorry.
Do not choke yourself here.
No, do you know?
Do not want to get a death on camera.
One of my best friends is from Wexford, and we are so country culture. I was just about to go, when I wake up in the morning and I jump straight out of bed. Definitely got ADHD. Whoa. When I do wake up in the morning and have a jumbo breakfast roll, I'm actually quite regulated, because I probably do have a normal sleeping, breathing pattern, because when I wake up, I do feel a little bit calm in the morning. And it's built-in habits for me to check my phone straight away, not, you know, have breakfast, have a cup of coffee, get like energy, where I'm trying, and I've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years and I still am breaking the habit. I'm trying to like listen to Headspace for 10 minutes, try to hold on to the sense of calm breathing when I first wake up. And I've seen that in myself. And I often think, well, hey, that's where I must have just deeply built in this habit, and that it's not something that I can't not control. There's just a lot of elements and environments in life that will either exemplify it or will help, you know, calm it down.
Okay.
That's a choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a constant investigation.
So then this brings me on to, is sleep important for you then?
Oh my God. I left London earlier this month because I was sleep deprived. But I worked in nightclub, queer nightlife too much. I was heavily involved in the drag community, which is somewhere that has my heart a lot. But I was burning up behind. Sorry,
when you're working in the nightclub, what are you doing?
I'm doing the makeup for the girls. I'm either performing, doing drag, or I'm going out after an event, and I'm either doing like makeup for the shows, and like I would have bookings during the day, and sometimes like I would just like, that's where my friends exist. Like some of my friends are performers and I go and see their shows. But then on TV film jobs even, I'm up at 4 a.m. and I'm back from set at 7. I cannot wind down until like 11 or midnight, and then I'm back up at 4 again. So that's 4 hours sleep.
Okay, that's really not good for anyone.
No, and 8 is like, I've slept about, on average, 12 hours nearly the last 2 weeks. I've taken a hiatus and I've just been in County Laois. First 5 days didn't leave my room, cleared it out. I finally did baby steps and took the dog around the block. Took him on a longer walk. Yesterday, drove up to Dublin. Like, I've taken a big break the last 2 weeks because...
Do you think you were a bit burnt out then?
Oh, definite. Like, for definite.
So look, if you didn't leave the bedroom for 5 days and taking the dog for a little walk was a major milestone. It's probably a sign that you've been doing too much, yeah?
Yeah. This is like a consultation now, isn't it? But for people that can relate to it, you know, at this time of year, people might be wanting to talk about this.
Yeah, but I also think that there's so much expected of people now, and it's almost like, you know, if you're not doing, then what are you doing? But I think that there is too much of that
burnout culture. It's like the next trend, or it's almost like,
let me show you how busy I am.
Yeah, and like I felt that pressure after the show. Like, I felt the pressure to think I had to keep up a fabricated idea because, you know, makeup, it was such a high standard. Some days if I just don't want to make as much of an effort, or I'm not getting 60 clients under my belt and not sleeping for 2 weeks because I'm just so booked and busy, people are like, oh yeah, slay, it's amazing. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And for how my condition is, it's even like more dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm even deciding going forward how much of the route in the makeup world I want to be part of. It was easier to work as an influencer and create content from home because I wasn't out traveling. There's been benefits because I get to meet people. I'm such a people's person. I only stayed at home and did that side of this industry because of lockdown.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it was easier for my body to rest more.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's my kind of dear diary for this year, to think, what does James Mack want to do going forward? But
and when you create content on Instagram, do you make money out of that, or is that just purely for?
I would have like initially when I was doing social media, where I was all like, I was keeping up my engagement. I had a large enough following that, you know, there's enough people watching my content that you might have a fraction of them actually click into an affiliated link. It benefits the client that pays you to like advertise their brands. Isn't that how it fundamentally works? And, you know, it's not like giving up on that golden opportunity, because I feel like some people online that have social media platforms, they strive to want that because, hey, brands do pay out big money for it. But I never expected to do social media. I had like 2 followers, too many in 2020.
Okay.
And then I got 290K because of the show. And I did the show for the purpose of me growing and wanting to prove something to myself, or, you know, learn. Like, I love to learn and try to excel and, you know, break out of my own skin, because I felt so maybe oppressed for years.
Yeah.
It was never to be like I get people messaging me when the next show advertises applications. They're like, how do I get on the show? How do I get? And I'm like, that's the one reason you don't go for it. Because I just personally think, I'm like, it's not to get like, I mean, yes, you want the exposure, you can get capitalize off it, go hell for leather, but don't let that be the driving. It won't drive you, I think, for very long, because you will not find a sense of passion or a real reason for doing it eventually. And that's why I've gone back to work as a makeup artist, because I knew I wanted to test my skills to feel I can do the TikTok stuff. I know how to paint my face, obviously, but you can put any model in front of me and I will try to follow the brief.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great like money earner, and, you know, it still is an opportunity. What I'm trying to create even for my own brand now is excelling as a working makeup artist and sharing that content as my content online. So maybe a brand could sponsor me to
James is
Did
James
you say Charlotte Tilbury earlier? I know, I love her so much. I actually do though. Text me. So Laura's skin is fair tone. We're going to start the makeup application now. This cream blush is lovely tone for the winter. And individual lashes. Yeah, like that's kind of a big fundamental in this day and age anyways. Aren't we all like capitalizing on our work lives and our personal lives, and everything is online essentially now?
There's also so many more opportunities now, I think, for people to diversify their career, where there may not have been, you know, years ago people would have been in a career and that was it.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of opportunity for people to diversify and change up if they want.
This exactly. Like, I would be surprised and curious to wonder, am I doing this in 2 years' time? Yeah. Where is James Mack, the ski instructor, drag queen, makeup extraordinaire?
We need to see. There needs to be a television show of just you.
Oh, wow. Well, we filled a soundbite for it here already. But yeah, I mean, they're my passions. And it's like, do you ever find that it just I find now, I'm 29, I got another year to go, but the 20s have been all about trial and error. I'm buzzing for my 30s. Even though my mom slaps me, she's like, stop wishing your life away. But I definitely see it as being, do as much trial and error as mistakes. I'd like to think that, you know, if you're more knowing of yourself. Yeah. Am I right? When you get like a little absolutely. Older. Yeah. And like you can there's no like sense of failure and just trying.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still find that hard after GlOWUP, where it's like, I can't make a mistake a little bit, because, you know, people come to you and they glorify you and you're filled with such hyper validation because you did, like, I did well on the show. I'm very proud of it. But it's like, there's days when I've had makeup and I'm like, this is muck. Like, porridge looks better in a pot. And like, you know, but that's, you know, some days you're only as good as your last look is a very common catchphrase in the industry. And like that in itself creates pressure. But that's where it's like, for makeup now, I'm going to say, it's almost like your lifestyle reflects, after just talking about it for the last whatever amount of time, it reflects, you know, your career. Like, this is this is my life. It's not just like a 9 to 5. I talk about it every day. I'm doing something with it every day, you know? So you have to be very careful, especially when you freelance for yourself and you choose art as your form of work. I read one somewhere where it was like, that's like one of the biggest sacrifices you can make as a person on like in this world, or as a form of, you know, making a life for yourself, because it's not like just a nixer or a passion hobby. You're making a choice to have it as your number one bread earner.
And it's difficult as a bread earner in, you know, being an artist.
Yeah.
You know, but can I ask you, when after the success of the GlOWUP, is it difficult to kind of come down from those dizzying heights of, you know, 150,000 people following you overnight? Like, can it be difficult to kind of, you know, you do a show like that, people are aware of your existence. I don't know, is fame the word? But you're certainly out there, and then coming down from that, can it be tough?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to say 100%. And I would like to think I've never lost my sense of like just staying grounded, remaining humble, but also just like, it's like anything these days, I think to so many people inflates the ego, and like, it's like a free Ryanair flight. You're gone into the sky. It's easier said than done. Like, I think for me, it's like, I've tried to also, embrace the opportunities. Yes, you become more confident. Yes, you get recognized. You have to feed into that to keep that culture or to keep that kind of like momentum going. But then also, how do you not lose the run of yourself? It's a big balance.
Yeah.
And like some of my friends have had amazing opportunities on other shows to date. And like, it changes the dynamics of how we remain friends, how your family and friends see you. Like I've had some people say, oh, I wouldn't text you anymore now because you're famous. And I'm like, please, never. Girl, like, if I forget to text you back, I forgot to text back when I had like, again, I said 2 followers, or, I was bad at texting back in college.
Yeah.
And, I'd lose my name badge, never mind no one actually knowing who I was. And I think that was like, fundamentally, I would just be very, certain about that. Like that is a big priority for me, while also not, being too modest about, you deserve it, or you deserve what you've worked for.
Yeah.
Like I like the exposure. Duh. I didn't do the show for like just no reason. Obviously I was aware it was going to be a TV program, and I'm doing it for me, but all eyes will be on it. We were very fortunate to the level of exposure that I got. And it was way bigger than I ever expected, which is ironic. This like when you're not looking, things come your way. And it's like, do you want to be rich or famous? in a little bit. Like all I want to do is be able to do my work. Definitely, the benefit of having people knowing about it. It does, I think, nearly elevate in our industry 5 or 10 years ahead. Because like I was able to get a fast track to build what people do organically over a longer period of time. Because like it just happens all at once. And it does change how you perceive and see yourself. And yeah, maybe I do there's an element of liking the attention. Hello, I'm an only child. It has to be a fucking reason. Hi, Mom. And I just think that, I don't know, it's no biggie to me. Like Fashion Week last year was my first time, London, September 2021. And I was doing Richard Quinn as an amazing British designer. I was doing the makeup backstage. Like no one is seeing us. Excuse me. I wanted this experience. I get a tap on the shoulder. I turn around. It's Kate Moss. And her daughter, Lila Moss, was opening for Quinn. She's only like 18. There was a team around her doing the makeup. We were cleaning the brushes, doing the skin. We were all part of it. And like I've been in Powers Court or Dundrum or even the ILAC Centre. And I've had moms and daughters come up to me and be like, oh my God, we saw you in the show. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Kate and Lila were the same, like that mother and daughter. And they were like, oh my God, darling, like we loved you in the show. And I'm like, you love me on the show. And they're like, can we get a picture with you? I was like, can you get a picture with me? I'm like, what? And that to me was a snap moment. I was like, that's wild. And I'll never forget that.
Is Lila Moss, like, I don't even know what she looks like. Is she very like Kate?
Oh, stunning. Yes. Like she's only 19, 20 now. And she is the ambassador for, I won't even say it because I can't remember. So I'm only spitting out of my arse. Yeah. But Kate was so like humble. And she was like, and she was like, how are you? And I was like, you're asking how I am. It's like, yeah, I'm grand. And I went off like, I just saw the girls down there. I'm like, yeah, things have been grand. Your mother's, flying away. The kettle's on, have a cup of tea. Sure, they're all kicking on. And like, kept it real. And then she was like, I said, I'm from the countryside Ireland, it's just been a gas experience. I'm very honoured. And she said, darling, I'm from Croydon. And she's like, you can do anything's possible. So I was like, you're dead. Kate, you're dead on. He's like, Brilliant. Go on, let's go halfways on a quick pick scratch ticket. Yeah. Have you got 5 there? Any euros? And tell
me what it was like to go back to, like, when you came out as gay to your mum and dad, was that okay? Did they know already and you just needed to kind of tell them, kind of admit it to yourself, I suppose, as well as them? And then the drag thing, how did they take that too? So that's 2 questions in one.
Yeah, I was 21. It was after my 21st. So 8 years ago. They were surprised, but I had no girlfriends. I had one girlfriend in New Zealand, but like we were so best mates. She identified as like bisexual for all it matters. her brother's very attractive. I'll say that now if they ever listen. And I spent a summer in New Zealand the first year of college with her. And, you know, I broke up on the way back and I kind of thought there was never a girl really brought home after her. I met a guy who I actually just saw yesterday. We're still good mates. The first, like, you know, love of my life. Like, I came out dating him. We were together for 3 years and he's an amazing, amazing soul. And he is from Portlaoise and I'm like a village outside of Portlaoise. So we're from the same area. We met up in Dublin and we dated for 3 months. And my dad has a sister who's no longer with us who had Down syndrome. And she was in a care home in Laois. And my first boyfriend's mum was her carer. She passed at the same...
Like randomly?
Randomly, small world, okay? Like, you know, Laois is where it's popping.
So Ireland, though, for you,
so Irish, you know. Sure, where would you get it? Where would you get it? Yeah, you know, Father Ted syndrome. Yeah, Craggy Island was in Laois. And I was just dating him. I was not out. He was, you know, very comfortable in his skin. He'd been like out for the sake of it since he was 14, 15. He was a great support to me. And then my auntie passed away. And I remember we were all in ICU. And I used to stay at this boyfriend's house. And mom and dad say, "Are you coming home from college?" I'm like, "No, I'm up in DCU this weekend." I'm 5 miles from home at the boyfriend's.
Yeah.
And I did that for like 3-4 months. And then when my auntie passed, it was just so close. Literally in the expression close to home. My fella's mom was at the funeral, at the wake. She was in the ICU hospital and my parents were pretending to introduce me to her as if she didn't know who I was. So then the penny dropped and I said afterwards, I think it's time to tell my mom and dad. They were a bit surprised at first. Like my mom, and this is interesting because did you watch any shows? Like there's so many shows out there right now that teach about LGBTQI education, like RuPaul's Drag Race. It's a Sin was a big show on Channel 4.
Oh my goodness, I saw that. That was an amazing show.
It was a recreation of a time before I even existed.
That was
the 1980s
a recreation of the AIDS pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I watched it with my mom. My mom worked in insurance in Dublin in the 80s where, you know, someone that lived with like AIDS or HIV, their life insurance would be deflated because of, you know, they have no life expectancy.
Yeah. And
I say, and she's someone who is super conscious, always wants to learn. She has the most curious mind that exists to humankind. And it's the thing I love about her the most because she only ever wants to learn and support me. She had grown up with this like education in the 80s and 90s. Just never cared to ask me these questions because I just we were busy with life, busy helping with the Tourettes. You know, the girlfriend was probably a little bit of a cry off or a bad signal. But when I did come out, she was worried about me, I suppose, living a more difficult life because she felt if things weren't hard already with the Tourettes and then I came out, she was just really, I was always doted. I'm not going to lie. I was always like, you know, the baby, even to say I still am, and you know, the well-being and what you know, whatever happened to baby James, and just they were always just concerned. And I think that's very fortunate because I've had friends and learning from meeting so many walks of life, especially in the drag community in London, Dublin, further afield, across the world, and hearing different people's stories about being outcasted by their family. I'm very lucky. It was difficult at the start, but only for the fact that it was very emotional. My mom found it very hard and she went around to all of her sisters, got advice. She just couldn't stop crying for the first 6 months. And I was there like, woohoo!
Living your best life.
Got a boyfriend, I'm gay, I'm having gay sex, yes, all this like stuff. And I didn't actually find it. Again, it's like, I don't know what way my mind is constructed. Like the Tourette's with the GlOWUP, it hit me much later when the exposure of something happened. So when I came out, it was like a year afterwards. You know, I had a short little breakup with that boy because I was like, now I'm fine. Now I'm feeling I don't know who I am, or should I be single, or, you know, now I'm feeling like where do I fit in as my gay identity? And then that's where it's like the next coming out happens. I wasn't gay for the sake that I slept or dated the same sex. I was just like Calypso Rainbow. I knew I was on scratching the itch to be a drag queen. And even then, like 6 years ago, I was like, am I transitioning? Am I, you know, cross-dressing? Am I being hyper femme? I want this. No, I don't want this. You go through so many, like this conversation. If you had another queer person in the seat, they'll say the same thing in a different context. It's a thought process of how you ask yourself these questions. So I had a bit of a panic moment, and it didn't hit me until a year later, but they were shocked at first. And, you know, I say this with so much love, but I did find it hard to think that they didn't have an idea, being really honest. And I found it harder that, and there's no blame on anyone, but being an only child who was like, you know, no other attention is deflected onto another kid.
Yeah.
And, you know, the focus is kind of on you a little bit.
Yeah.
So if sometimes I don't know the answer, what the hell am I meant to say? When they're asking me all these questions and like, are you okay? Are you okay? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. But let's just let life give time. Give time. Oh my God, that's my mantra.
Give time.
Oh, give time. If you want to put a name on this podcast, that's it.
Okay, well, maybe I will.
Give time has been my biggest. When I recap everything I've even talked about now, it's like my biggest thing that's keeping me strong-held in all my life's experiences right now. Just trust the process, because that's what my whole 20s have been, really. And I'll bring it forward into my 30s. But yeah, even that coming out, I had to give it time. When I moved to London, and then I came back, 3 months afterwards, that Christmas, 4 years ago now, I came home with hair, heels, wigs, and I was like, I'm a drag queen. And like, you know, the London scene, I love it.
Did you step off the airplane like that?
Oh yeah, girl. I was like, hey. And they were like, oh, Mother J. And, you know, in the best.
Cheers,
yeah.
Christ.
You know, never a dull moment.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, you won't get on a horse like that. And I'm like, 2 years later, watch me. But they always supported it. One of my friends who was a contestant on this series of the UK's version of RuPaul's Drag Race, we shot some of the content for the show back in Ireland during the summer. And we still have some horses at home. We have a beautiful, I think he's like over 20 years old now, Connemara blue-grey cob. So they're like half pony horse in size.
I'm nodding here like as if I know what you're talking about, but I don't have a rashers.
We have a lovely, my lovely horse.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
And my friend that was on the show, we did a photo shoot with the horse at home. And that was amazing for my dad to be like, just, you know, so supportive. Now he was stressed to the ninth, and she's like, what's going to be going on now? And he's like, is this horse going to be dressed up in glitter and tinsel? And, you know, remember now the animal's welfare and all this stuff. But, you know, he got on like a house on fire with my friends that came over. That we all did a performance actually in Laois. There was a festival, it was like a boutique EP called Forest Fest. And there was an Anything Goes tent, which quote unquote the organizers wanted a drag show. And I was like, okay, I'll bring you drag. And we did, like, that was, you know, so like provoking society by having ours taking up space in, like, you know, where I come from. And that was amazing to see. And that only happened in July this summer. But yeah, bit by bit, 8 years could not just happen in one go. If I was to walk through the door, whatever way I felt and perceived myself to my friends and family, 21, and then this showed up today, imagine the next morning. You know, it's like life. You learn and adapt over time. It would be overwhelming for anyone just to see the changes, because, you know, I mean, we lose, we gain, we love, we find again, like this repeating cycle. So they've always been supportive, but it's definitely been a journey. Yeah. And I just think when I look back, it's like, I'm grateful that I always did it. I remember when I was younger thinking I was never going to come out. Like, I remember thinking it was never going to be possible. So why? Because, again, saying earlier, I was so good at like lying. Okay. I was really good at like acting. But acting is in putting it on. Not that I'm actually a good actor, but you know, faking it and not telling the truth to anybody. And isn't that tiring though? Yeah, well, you know, not allowing people to see or hiding your true self. Because what I find interesting about, I have lots of gay friends, lots of LGBTQI friends, and like what your mother was saying, I wouldn't have an issue if any of my children came out to me as gay. But I would be concerned that their lives would be a little bit more difficult, because I think that even though we've made great strides in Ireland, you know, there's still that cohort of people that aren't terribly kind to people from that community. And then also the fear is they go to another country and they're ridiculed as well, or they're not, you know, there's countries around the world that being gay is still illegal, you know. So, well, you know, Qatar, I'm going to put it out there. It's very difficult to see it in different parts of the world. Yeah.
So I suppose that's, that's kind of the concern, that would be the concerns, but I can understand how you would feel that, sense of not being able to come out or hiding your real self. But that's tiring.
It is. And like, I'm uplifted by my friends and like the stories that I hear from my friends around the world that have left their families. They don't even speak to them. They come to places like Dublin or London, and I have to think, wow, like, take for granted what I have. I embrace it and let them join my family, or let's create a family together. And with the pluses and the progression, the world's full of extremities. If we think about the extreme success and the progress we're making, like one thing I've seen, there's a lot more hate crime than ever before. Like a fellow Queen in the George got bottled outside Spar in the Dame Street corner a month ago, I think.
I read about that.
And I'm like, here we go. I almost feel like it's sensationalized, like this, backlash culture. Like, the no voters per se, and the marriage referendum. Panty Bliss made a good point that she hoped that their fears are unfounded. And nonetheless, it's like we just get on with our lives. There are people that will still. It's not that it's the balance in the world. No, I don't think that's like this is the way it is. There's always the fight. I mean, isn't there a fight for the goodwill in a lot of things in this world? And, it means more to me as a queer gay person to obviously stand up for myself and like, promote just acceptance and equality, and let the next generation just embrace this and not let it be an issue like the way it was illegal. It got decriminalized the year I was actually born. Nearly 30 years it's legal to be gay in Ireland even. And it's like, yeah, with all of these progressions, you're always going to have extremities. I always find it's just how persistent we are with, not giving up the fight. It's like life though in general, isn't it? It's like not giving up, the consistency, keep pushing through if you have a high or a low. Like bringing it back to the makeup world, I've had so much advice from professions saying, give it 7 years. If now is actually not what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, but there's highs and lows, keep never give up. But if it's the right thing for you, obviously don't do something that is not benefiting you, but never give up to, like, you probably know from your own industry and experience, or when did you think that this would be a feature of you being like a pharmacist or your science and medical background, and that in itself is inspiring. So we have to keep doing this to help even be like a little grain of thought for a young person that could be a leader in 10 or 15 years time. That's where I get my drive to do it, because I think about the future of someone else that's going to stand up because they might have heard this, or they might have come to when I did like a masterclass, or they saw GlOWUP, or I will go to the bar and support my friends who are doing their first show. All those little things, they matter. That's the reason I would that's the reason why I do what I do, or make sure to be my authentic self. And you teach your parents, like the student becomes the teacher as well.
Absolutely. God, you learn every day from your kids anyway.
I was going to say, what are you learning? Yeah, you probably know more about TikTok than I do.
Well, TikTok is just mental, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The way it feeds you the same stuff. My For You page is mental.
Yeah, I don't do TikTok that much. Can you imagine? I should.
I don't do it an awful lot, because apparently it's the way the world's going. That's what we should be doing. But Christ, I can barely get a handle on doing my Instagram. Never mind, the time that it takes and everything like that. So
honestly, I forget the post. When my agent's like, you should be posting, James.
Oh, you have an agent, James?
I do for a social. Did I just drop? Let me just pick that off the ground there. Sorry, girls. I have someone that has to give me direction, because 100%, because they help you learn about the business. And like I did London Pride this year, and that was amazing, because I actually walked in heels in drag down Piccadilly, and I was like, okay, this is the gay me's younger dream. So those things, I'm like, wow, one more of that in the future, please.
So you love doing that?
I do.
Yeah.
And like, I love drag to the point that, should I do more of it? I get asked to do Drag Race and those kind of things, or by friends.
Okay.
And I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
Because like, if it
how do you apply for those
sign
shows?
Up, apply. Okay. The application link is available.
Yeah.
Well, it's closed now for the next season in the UK.
You should definitely do it.
Maybe. I think at the time, if I'm ready, like, I just think got my life to achieve things. You know what actually does excite me? Not knowing equally was obviously having some kind of agenda or schedule. Not knowing where I could be in like 2 or 3 years or 5 years from now. Like my friends from school and college, and like the ones I count in my hand, we always, if you're going to be friends with me, you're probably going to be a nostalgic creature, because that's just my empathic energy of the people I draw in. And I often do say to my mates, I'm like, Do you remember 5 years ago, like we would have said, no, when we're like only 21 or whatever, either ways in our later 20s, we've done this. And it's like, oh my God, that was a dream. Like even the clients and the people I've worked with this year, I have to check myself and remind myself to, gratitude. Gratitude's a big thing for 2023 as well.
Yeah. Is it, do you think as well as humans or, we're never quite happy. So you strive to do something. And then once that's done, you want to do more. I suppose that's the way why we've evolved though, as well, to become the race that we are, I suppose, dare I say it, but and have all the progression because we're constantly looking for more, to do better and better. But I think that sometimes, and certainly in this day and age, it can be a negative because it can cause that burnout, like what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's just kind of been like normalized that you should be doing as much work. So I'm kind of happy to be a little bit selfish next year, but in a healthy way.
Yeah,
and I think just give more valuable time to just having like different kind of conversations and experiences and just like resting more, which I know sounds a bit bizarre, but
no, not at all. Did you do anything special for World AIDS Day? Because it was recently enough.
I did actually. And when I met you, my guest at the Stellar Awards was Rebecca Talent de Havilland.
I don't know who she is.
Who is Rebecca Talent de Havilland?
She may be coming on.
Well, Laura, it's amazing that you say that because, here is my PA stunt for her. No, I love this woman so much. Rebecca Talent de Havilland is the first fully transitioned woman in Ireland, I think. And she and I we met each other last year and I did her makeup she was the face of HIV Ireland's Red Glow campaign, where, monumental buildings across Ireland and the world were lit up in red in commemoration of the AIDS memorial and the pandemic. And I think it was 40 years since the first recorded AIDS patient in Ireland.
40 years?
40 years this year, because it was 40 last year actually in the UK. And one of my clients, like one of the brands I used to work for was MAC Cosmetics, and they do their Viva Glam campaign every year. And I think last year was the 40th patient anniversary because there was a big vigil in London. And I got to do a really cool campaign where I actually got to they create like a new branded collaborative make like Viva Glam lipstick, and all the like money is donated towards the charitable like the Terence Higgins Trust or HIV UK, and it goes back in towards funding and research for HIV, just medication or resources and just like helping people that are victims or suffered living with HIV or AIDS in their lives. And that to me has actually been a big opening in my own eyes, because when I was 22 or 23, when I became single for the first time since coming out after the first boyfriend, we're still really good friends. It happened. I went off, did a bit of doddery. I got chlamydia, and I went to the doctors and did a rapid HIV test, and they said I was positive. And I remember this is only 6 years ago, and like the conversations opened up so much.
Yeah.
Just tipping on what I did for World AIDS Day this year, I was doing HIV Ireland because I suppose my passion draws from a few years ago. This happened to me. And I remember even then, like the stigma around HIV, which is probably when I look about when I came out, my mum's fear, her initial reaction to when I first came out. They told me in Baggot Street, they had to do a rapid laboratory test. It was going to take 48 hours because it was like 1 in 10,000 are false positives. And I remember the consultant saying, you can't tell anyone that you have this false pretense in limbo result because it will change everyone's perception of you forever. And I remember thinking, I can't go to someone to say, I'm a bit stressed because I might be, I can live my life, but I might be HIV positive. And you're saying I can't tell anyone about it for the next, 4 days? And I literally sat at home while crying because I had my own preconceived ideas. Like education on the matter has changed so much, even in the last 5 years. Like even this show, It's a Sin, and people's stories like how I met Rebecca, but they're the trailblazers. It ended up coming back negative. But I often find I have a real deep, maybe that's just where my compassion, solidarity, or support, wanting to care and support people comes from. Because I'm always just like, I imagine things being quote unquote maybe like more difficult for me, but I'm grateful for just, the life I have, and I want to make sure I'm just supporting and helping others. So when I heard people like Rebecca's story, I was like, I need to meet you, or I want to be inspired. And I'm just so happy that I got to do that with her this year. Yeah. From a makeup point of view, that was a big job for me to have back here, because I haven't really been on the Irish scene as a working artist since the show as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been back in the UK a lot, and when we met each other, that was the first Irish event I'd actually ever been to.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how these life stories and experiences I've like gathered, they're feeding into like things that are now coming up that just seem to be happening at the right time for me, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That must have been absolutely so scary though, going home to wait for 4 days for the test to come back, and then it to come back negative. Obviously, you're delighted.
I was photographing my cousin's Debs down in Newbridge, and I remember pulling over in the motorway and just like crying out of relief, but also being like, people are so strong out there that might live with HIV. I do not know. Like, I'm not claiming or owning any of this. Like, this is just what happened to me. It's not important in the bigger picture of some other amazing people out there that have incredible stories, but nonetheless, it still matters to my life, I guess. And you know, I did sense a relief, but it was funny. I even went to a reaction where it's like, am I relieved in thinking that this is going to be a negative thing? You have to perceive, you could have, like, you know, you could be so strong that if you were to become, like, if I was diagnosed HIV positive, how much I could like learn from this and how much it has changed people's lives in a practical way. Like, there's the pause by podcasts. It's Veda and Robbie. Oh my God, I'm having a blank right now. But he was Mr. Gay Ireland, and there's a podcast with two lads that talk about the destigmatize around HIV positivity in the conversation. Yeah, and that's been an amazing podcast in Ireland that I love listening to, because I find that it's a great education on, you know, normalizing like the healthy life that you can essentially live. And like, you know, destigmatizing the preconceived ideas of the negative connotations that I find in the best respects. My mom fell into that category. Of unknowns, course, I think people, you know, not by any, you know, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Ignorance. It was just what was taught even before I was born about just, you know, like your health and life and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, there is definitely, but there still is a bias there against people that are HIV positive. Certainly, like, it's changing. Yeah. And I think World AIDS Day has a lot to do with that, in terms of, you know, getting the name out, getting it out there, and the fact that there are people that live with it. Yeah. And obviously with all the drugs that there is nowadays, people can live long and healthy lives with it. They just need to mind themselves and make sure and take their drugs.
Exactly, 100%.
But yeah, no, it's it is an interesting take. I'll have to get that lady on.
You will. She's coming on. Like, her story, I listened to it, and she has a book. Like, this is her story, so she'll tell it.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like sometimes I love to be a little advocate for other people. I'm like, where's my agency to represent others?
I know, exactly. That's it. You need to have your agent pimping you out to represent others. Isn't that right?
Yeah, this is it. Exactly. But, you know, I think I've definitely packed in a lot in my, like, this
29 years. Yeah. Well, 8 years.
In the last 8 years, going into my 29th year. Yeah, it's been fun, and, you know, even this like time for rest and reflection, it's on like probably the last 5 years pre this industry. I definitely find this chapter of my life has been definitely like the last 4 years. It's been very like the same.
And three of them have been the pandemic, James. So goodness knows what's going to happen.
Oh my God. There is some really exciting stuff in the pipeline, hopefully for next year.
Can you tell us?
Just some of my, you know, people that I work with from a makeup point of view. If I have the fortune to still be part of some people's creative teams, okay, I could be doing some really exciting stuff.
So watch this space.
Watch this space. Like, further afield, different parts of the world. At different events. So, and you know, who knows? Actually, the one thing I do remember from this year, my brain is, I'm also hanging. So I hope you've enjoyed this, because I feel like, have I been any fun or any resource at all today?
You absolutely have. James is hungover today.
Yeah. Oh, guys, more Mikados, and if anyone has jumbo breakfast rolls and like Baracas or your remedies as well, which would be long-term better for me. This year has been loads of achievements, because when I think about when I met Kate Moss, one person that I did get to do makeup on this year, and I am very proud of this, was Eva Longoria. Okay. And it was the day after, actually, we were together in Stella. I went to Paris the next day for Paris Fashion Week. Oh, yeah. And I got to work with Val Garland, who was the judge on GlOWUP in the UK, and she's a global ambassador for makeup in L'Oreal. And she picked me to do the makeup because, well, Eva Longoria, she's stunning. She's got lovely sallow skin. She's got that Mexican the scent, but she can take a lot of makeup, almost like drag.
Okay.
Like, it was glamour, but like 4 stacks of lashes, highlight, concealer. She was like, get that contour on, baby. Had like 20 minutes to do it as well. So we were like, whack. And that was a huge feat for me this year. But you know, I never felt nervous by it. I was never good at watching TV growing up. I never really watched soaps or got obsessed by, you know, any fame or fan culture.
Yeah.
So that's where I always find I'm like a bit ignorance is bliss. So we're kind of like,
yeah.
Hi ho, or like, what's your name? Eva, great. You love ham. You know? Yeah, Barry's or lines, very important question.
Let's dab on a bit of highlighter here.
Yeah, literally.
So at the end of my podcast, I always ask people the same 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is what advice would you give young people today?
Ooh, if they listen to the last, I would just say that learn the meaning of the word authenticity. So look up the word authenticity. Learn to like abide by that. Because essentially I'm saying be yourself.
Yeah.
But I find that if there's a word that it's easy to remember, just, you know, your authentic self is your strongest tool. It could be your like Achilles heel though at the same time. It's your strength, and from personal experience, it can be like your weakness. But from our darkest moments, sometimes our greatest powers can, you know, come from. So just, you know, really embrace your authenticity, because that's exactly why you're loved. That's exactly why you are meant to do whatever life is meant to, will give you. We all go through difficult times, and from my own experience, it's like there can be blip moments where even if you have to go and put the kettle on, just, you know, take a breather. Don't make any rash decision. Like, just remember you are loved and like what makes you unique. It's just try to make an affirmation for yourself that like, I am going to live my best authentic life, because that's the reason you're here. That's why people will love you, and that's what will draw in what's meant for you in life. And that's been something that I guess I've only actually learned to remember that word, because I met a lovely person this year. It was intimate. We're not like a thing per se, but they taught me like that would be something wrapping 2022. So it's actually something that I've learned recently that I'm kind of abiding by. So that's my, you know, advice to younger people.
Okay, that's
so
lovely.
I feel like I nearly tapped into my younger self again this year.
Yeah.
With certain experiences and just looking back.
Okay.
And yeah, big time.
And what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life? Oh my God. The meaning of life, I think it's to have fun, and that is going to be sometimes tough, because rather than just like saying be happy. I have a catchphrase: if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. So, you know, the meaning of life is what you make it, but don't put yourself under too much pressure about that.
Okay.
Like, just go have fun with it. I'm saying this to everyone, and then the last person you say it to nearly is yourself, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
of course.
So I believe in that. Like, it should be fun, because then you find you're able to like take on whatever challenges. And like, I suppose it comes from a mindfulness point of view. If you stay in the present, you can handle whatever it is, be it like a good moment, a shit moment, or something. You can just, you know, maintain this ebb and flow and a more centered peace of mind. And that's what I want to do next year. So I want to have more fun, Laura, next year. Laura, are we going to have fun, girl?
I want to, listen, I'll be on that train
God,
with
you. Come to the George with me sometime.
Yeah, I will.
Sorry, this is like, I feel like I've been so Dr. Phil. I'm like, can we just actually bring you to George and just get on the Szechuan? And I will show you the girls.
Then I'd love to. So the next time you're up from Leash, let's do it.
Absolutely.
In January, yeah.
And Laura thought I was going to be here in drag today. I feel like I'm so...
I know. I was like, I fully expected him to turn up in drag, and not that I'm disappointed at all.
She's never going to release this podcast, actually. She's like, burner. Get her, Kelly.
I'm going to say, get back here in drag. No, that's for another time, definitely. But the
meaning of life, do drag.
Absolutely.
Life is a drag.
Do you know what? I might just get you to do me in drag someday.
I would love that. If you want me to paint your face in drag, I totally would. Like, my mom wants me to do it. I want to have my dad, before one of us leave this earth, And I don't know if this will be real or not. If I could paint my dad in drag, do you know, just to me, that's something I want to do to like as an achievement. Because I've done the horse, the picture, the family. They're always like, oh no, that's like if you do it for you, I'll be fine over here.
Yeah.
But I just love, because you know, I have to find that everyone should do drag once in their life because it teaches you a different perception.
Well, I'm gonna do it so.
Because you're not meant to. It's not about like forcing you to love it. It's not like a culture brain, you know, mind game. It's like you would see things differently. And I think that's been like the bug or the grip. And for me, I've personally clinged on to it because that's who I am. But you can do it and not ever love or remember it again, but it teaches you something else. You see things in a total different light then.
And will your dad agree to it, do you think?
Who knows? I will I come back when I say I've ticked that off the list?
Okay, great.
But yeah,
we'll do that.
I'm so going to link this to him now. And I'll be like, straight to the end, Dad. The 69th minute. Get into it.
Thank you so much, James. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for your attentive ear and patience. And it's been such a privilege.
Yeah, it's great. It's lovely having you. Thanks.
Thanks for the Mikados.